Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In this video, we will present about discourse and society. But before that, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Nabila Azahra and my partner is Meisha Frida Aurelia and Taufan Zaldito.
Discourse communities. Definition: a discourse community is a group of people who share common goals, use specific forms of communication, and develop their own language, genders, and norms to construct identity. There is several characteristics of discourse communities. First is common goals. The next is mechanism of communication and information and feedback exchange, gender specific lexis, member with expertise. Role of discourse communities. There is a socialization, teaching new members the norms and practice. Second, standardization, establishing rules, genders, and communication styles. And the next is knowledge transfer, bridging experts and novice. The next is collaboration, enabling members to work towards shared objective. And the next is identity building, shaping the collective identity of members. And the last one is field development, fostering growth and innovation within the discipline. Example: organizational communication, business design internal genders and onboarding sequences to align employees with company goals. Research and publishing, scientists and scholars use journals, conferences, and peer review as mechanism to circulate, validate, and refine knowledge. Professional, doctors, lawyers, engineers, and other professionals communicate through technical reports, case studies, or specialized documents. Their lexis is technical and often inaccessible to outsiders. Identity and casual conversation. Definition of identity and casual conversation. Identity in discourse is understood as something dynamic, relational, and performant. It is dynamic because identity is not fixed or stable. It changes depending on the context and situation. Second is casual conversation. Casual conversation plays an important role in identity construction. Everyday talk such as small talk, gossip, joking, or storytelling may look trivial, but it is actually full of meaning. There are several characteristics of casual conversation. The first is turn taking, and the next narrative and storytelling. The next politeness and fast work, and the last one is code switching. The role of identity in casual conversation is building belonging and solidarity, expressing difference and individuality, negotiating powers and roles, maintaining face and self-image, constructing everyday narrative, and bridging cultural and social differences. Example: professional identity. Casual conversation at work, staying relationship between colleagues or reduce distance between boss and staff. Gendered identity. Understanding conversational styles can reduce misunderstandings. Cultural identity. In multicultural groups, code switching help bridge gaps and avoid miscommunication. Youth identity shouldn't bound throw inside joke and slang. Teachers can use this to connect better.
So, the next material is language as social and local practice. The first is definition of language as social and local practice. According to Pennycook, in his book Language as a Local Practice, language is not a stable system but a set of practice shaped by and shaping social, cultural, and local context. He said that used to construct meaning through social interaction, influenced by culture, place, time, and community, and variable in nature according to the daily practice of the local community. Jadi, menurut Pennycook itu, bahasa bukan sekedar sistem abstrak yang berdiri sendiri, tetapi merupakan bagian dari praktik sosial yang selalu terikat pada konteks lokal. Nah, dalam bukunya tersebut, ia menegaskan ada 3. Yang pertama yaitu digunakan untuk membangun makna melalui interaksi sosial. Yang kedua dipengaruhi oleh budaya, tempat, waktu, dan komunitas. Dan yang ketiga adalah bersifat berubah-ubah sesuai praktik sehari-hari masyarakat setempat. And then, the second is difference between traditional and social local perspective. The first is traditional perspective. Mind focus. Language is considered a fixed, stable, and structured system. For example, grammar, vocabulary, and standard rules. The focus is on how language should be used correctly, not on who use it or in what situation. Jadi, perbedaan antara bahasa tradisional dan social local perspective, yang pertama yaitu dari perspektif tradisional, mind focus atau yang pertama yaitu bahasa tidak bisa dipahami hanya sebagai seperangkat aturan tata bahasa, kosakata, dan struktur yang bersifat universal atau netral. And then, search of meaning is considered to exist within the language itself. So, it can be understood through the rules of language, grammar, syntax, lexicon without needing to consider the context of use. Dan yang kedua adalah sebaliknya, bahasa selalu digunakan dalam situasi nyata di mana orang berinteraksi dalam konteks sosial, budaya, tempat, dan waktu tertentu. Yang ketiga yaitu role of social context. Social context is considered unimportant or merely background information, meaning can still be understood without considering who is speaking or where the conversation is taking place. Yang ketiga yaitu cara orang berbicara, dengan pilihan katanya, gaya, dan makna yang dihasilkan dipengaruhi oleh lingkungan tempat tinggal mereka atau lingkungan lokal mereka. Misalnya, disebabkan karena norma budaya, hubungan sosial, kemudian sejarah, identitas, dan nilai-nilai yang berlaku di tempat itu. Kemudian, example of traditional perspective, yaitu contohnya ada a language teacher noticed students use words such as bestie or BTW when talking to their friends at school. Contohnya yaitu seorang teacher atau seorang guru menemukan muridnya menggunakan kata bestie atau BTW ketika mereka berbicara di sekolah. Nah, the teacher considers this to be incorrect standard grammar. These forms are considered deviation from correct Indonesian or English. The focus is on standard language structure. For example, students should say teman baik, good friend, or by the way in full. And then the second is socio-local perspective. Main focus language is seen as a social practice that is always bound to a specific context, culture, space, time, community. Language is understood through its use in everyday life. Search of meaning is not inherent in language itself, but it's created in social interaction. In other words, meaning arises from the way people use language in specific situation. Nah, and the third is role of social context. Very important because context, who is speaking, to whom, in what situation, shapes and changes meaning. And the fourth is view of variation. Language variation is considered normal, natural, and reflective of the social diversity and identity of its speaker. No one form of language is more correct than another. And then example of the sociological perspective is when masih sama contohnya seperti tadi, yaitu penggunaan kata bestie atau BTW ketika menggunakan berbahasa dengan teman sekolahnya. The research observed that these word choice were appropriate for the social context. Students were building familiarity and group identity through slang. Nah, jadi menurut institusi pendidikan bahwasanya guru penggunaan kata tersebut merupakan membangun familiarity atau identitas grup tersebut. Kemudian, language is understood as social tool, not just system of rules. Jadi bahasa itu adalah alat, bukan sebuah sistem atau peraturan. Kemudian, meaning emerge from social interaction. Besties does not only mean good friend, but also indicate a close relationship and solidarity between friends. Jadi kata bestie ini menurut sosial lokal perspektif itu merupakan indikasi bahwa siswa tersebut dengan siswa lainnya memiliki hubungan yang sangat dekat antar teman. Kemudian, and then language shapes and is shaped by relationship, power, identity, and social norms. Language is not neutral, it reflects and shapes social structures. The way a person speaks can affirm their social identity, gender, class, ethnicity, while also revealing or challenging power relations. Social norms also influence how people are allowed or not allowed to speak. And then, for example, the first in educational institution, teachers use instructional and formal language to demonstrate authority and maintain order in the classroom. For example, teachers use instructional and formal language when teaching, such as please open page 45 and do question 1 until 5. The meaning of this example is this formal language signifies the teacher's authority as the leader of the class. And then the second is professional community. Doctors use technical medical terms to demonstrate their specialty and distinguish their role from that of patients. For example, doctors use technical medical terms when speaking with fellow medical professionals, such as the patient has chronic hypertension with complication of neuropathy. So, the meaning from the example is technical terms demonstrate professional expertise and identity as a doctor. This language also distinguishes them from patients who do not use technical terms. The use of this language creates a social boundary between experts and non-experts. And then, the other example is social groups. Members of online communities or hobby groups have specific vocabulary and language style to show membership and solidarity. For example, gokil banget sih lo, you're so crazy. And then, gaskan aja, just do it. This language is only understood by fellow group members and is used to build familiarity. And then is the main concept of language as a social and local practice. The first is language as social practice. Language is not only a tool for communication but also part of everyday social actions. Language is used to do things in social interaction, give orders, bargain, persuade, build identity, etc. Meaning arises from interaction, not from language itself. The second is language as local practice. Language is always tied to a specific place, culture, and community. Variations in language are considered normal because each place and social group has its own way of speaking. Language reflects local norms, values, and customs. And then the third is language as a tool for constructing social identity. Language not only conveys message but also shapes who we are in the eyes of others. The choice of language style, dialect, or certain terms indicates group membership. And then the last is language as a dynamic and flexible practice. Language is not a permanent system, but is constantly changing in line with social practice. Speakers are considered active, not passive. They can create, mix, and adapt language according to social needs.
Definition and connection between discourse and gender. Discourse refers to language used as a form of social practice, while gender refers to socially constructed rules that influence how people communicate. When combined discourse and gender, can help us understand how language constructs, shapes, and reinforces gender roles within society. The next is gendered communication styles. Research shows that men and women often use language differently. Women's speech is commonly described as more polite and indirect, often using hedges and take question. Men's speech tends to be more direct and assertive. Men frequently use report talk, which focuses on giving information, while women often use report talk, which focuses on building connection and maintaining relationships. Women's conversations are usually more collaborative and supportive, while men's conversations are more competitive, involving interruptions or challenges. Their differences are shaped by social expectations regarding how men and women should communicate. The next is representation in media. Media discourse plays a major role in constructing gender identity. Media texts often reproduce ideology, including gender bias. Women are frequently portrayed as emotional, sensitive, or focused on appearance. Men, on the other hand, are commonly represented as rational, authoritative, and powerful. These portrayals help shape public perception and reinforce gender stereotypes in everyday life. The example, we can see gender discourse in various contexts. In news, men are more often described as leaders, while women are described as emotional or as victims. In advertising, women are commonly linked to beauty, domestic roles, and caregiving, while men are associated with strength, success, and power. In everyday conversation, stereotypes still appear. For example, women talk too much and men are silent but firm.
The next material is identity and written academic discourse. Identity is considered a social construct that is not fixed but that rather shaped through interactions, language, and social practice within the academic community. The second is written academic discourse is a form of written communication that follows the norms, conventions, and values that apply in the academic world. For example, essays, scientific articles, research reports, and theses. And then key characteristic of identity and written academic discourse. The first is emphasis on author identity, and the second is writing as a social practice, and then the third is the role of social, cultural, and linguistic context. The fourth is analysis of writer's voice, and the fifth is intertextuality and position in literature. And the role of social, cultural, and linguistic background in shaping a writer's voice. Writers from collectivist cultures tend to write in a more collaborative style and avoid overly strong individual claims. Writers from a second language background often adopt a Western academic writing style while bringing in influences from their native culture. For example, an implication. The example is the use of I or we indicates the author's present and action position in the academic text. And then in implication gives the author a personal voice and authority. And then the second example is can be used to explain the author's personal contribution to the research. For example, in this study, I argue. And then the third example is indicate collaboration within a team. For example, we conducted a survey. And then the implication is, however, care must be taken not to appear overly subjective, depending on the convention of the discipline.
The first is definition, teacher's identity in discourse. Teacher identity refers to how teachers understand and define themselves in their professional role. It is not fixed but dynamic and constantly developing over time. This identity is shaped through personal experiences, emotions, school culture, professional demands, and the discourses surrounding education, such as policies and classroom interactions. Teacher identity includes both personal and professional aspects and is always being negotiated. Next is about key characteristics of teacher identity. The teacher identity is dynamic and always changing. It is influenced by a personal background, professional experiences, and social expectation. Identity is constructed through language, personal narratives, and reflection on teaching experiences. The next is role of teachers, identity in discourse. Discourse strongly shapes how teachers see themselves. Policy discourse often defines what counts as a good teacher, setting expectations and standards. At the same time, classroom interactions and everyday conversation allow teachers to negotiate and reconstruct their identity. This shows that teacher identity is never static but constantly influenced by different contexts. The next is example and implications. Teachers may be positioned as knowledge providers, mentors, or caregivers, depending on the discourse within the school or community. School culture and policy shape how teachers perceive themselves and how others perceive them. Teacher identity significantly affects confidence, teaching style, and professional growth. Therefore, teacher education programs should provide opportunities for reflection and identity development, helping teachers build a strong and positive professional identity.
So, that's all from our presentation. I hope you can take a good lesson and forgive us if there are mistakes. So, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.